with another live on this brilliant Saturday afternoon. We do hope that many of you will join and chat with us today. Look at this extremely sunny and brilliant day, and kitty cats are sunbathing happily. There's also quite a bit of a wind today. The trees outside, their leaves are dancing in the breeze. And sometimes, because we're in fall, if you can see, there is some red in the leaves there. Some of the leaves are actually falling, and kitty cats love to see the leaves fall and move around. It's part of their hunting, actually. And there is Baji. Hey, hi, Just a Bean. Hello. Yash, is that you? And then there is Rosie. Hi, Rosie. Hi, how are you? So happy to see you all. So happy that you're joining. We are back on our Saturday live. So we've been going live. Yes, it's me. Oh, very nice, Yash. Yay. How are you, Yash? Tell us how your week has been going. We went live on one of the weekdays, Tuesday as well. I don't think I saw you there, but that's okay. We caught you on today's Saturday live. So we have been going live and hanging out with the kitty cats and chatting with you and reading from a book on our live streams Saturday and Sunday. Let me show you Baji. So on Saturday and Sunday especially, we go live for quite a long time, and we hang out with you and we hang out with the kitty cats, and we also do book reading. Here is Suji, and here is my coffee all ready to go, as you can see. Why does Baji look like he's a king? And Yash says, I'm good. Oh, good. He does look like he's a king. Baji! Baji, hi bolo shobaike. Baji babu. Baji babu. Baji babu to. Baji babu has been an exceptionally good boy today. Yesterday, he was picking a few fights with his sister. But today he is exceptionally good boy, and I think the sun also makes him a little calmer because he realizes the power of the sun. It's a lot for him to handle, and so he generally will sunbathe or even hide in his cave because the sun is too strong. But the fall and winter sun is softer, so it suits Baji. He's a more wintry kind of cat, because he's a more wintry kind of cat. Hi, Baji Wawa. Can you pat him on the head for me? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Of course. Rosie says Baji is adorable. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you everyone for joining. We will chat and catch up, and we will read in just a second here. So appreciate all your comments and chat messages. Love to see it. Love to see you on the live. And as usual, tell us your thoughts and share with us how you feel and any comments, and love to see it. So we're getting settled. We're getting settled to hang out with everybody, and we will read as well. Look at these two. Look at these two tigers. Sunbathing tigers. Baba tu, Fuji Baba. Oh, Fuji Baba. Look at this one. Look at this one. Look at this one. She's a full tiger. Hi, Fuji. Fuji is upset because sorry that I couldn't watch the live at Tuesday. I was revising my computer test on Tuesday. Oh, no worries. Yes, for sure. Computer test is probably more important. So Don't be sorry. Thank you for joining today. Fuji is the dominant kitty cat, and he likes to maintain a certain image in public. So he did not like that I petted him, and he would like to be not disturbed. I love that cat, says Garrett. Hi Garrett, how are you doing today? Garrett Christie, love your profile picture. Sorry that I couldn't watch the live. Oh yeah, and it was my last test. So you're all done? You're all done with your tests? That's amazing. Is this like a half yearly test before the holidays or something like that? I know it's the sort of holiday time in. I know for sure it's the holiday time in India. There's a lot of festivities and festival season over there. We used to get quite a bit of time off in school during this time. And that used to work out nicely for me because it's also my birthday. It's my birthday month. My birthday is next week. So growing up, I usually didn't have to go to school on my birthday because it was during the holidays. Yep. Oh, nice. Okay, so half yearly. Let me share this live on my community tab. If you're joining, thank you so much. Welcome, welcome. We'll get started with our book in just a second here. We're just catching up with everybody and saying hi and hanging out with the kitty cats, having a peaceful, relaxing time. We have a bit of a breeze today. We also have a lot of sun, thank goodness. And it's just a brilliantly sunny October day. And I hope that you will stay with us quite a while and we can catch up and read from the book and have a relaxing time. Not too much stimulation on these live streams. I know we have too much of that in the world today. And it's just for relaxing if you want to listen to it while you do something else or you close your eyes or, rest, relax. That's what this is for. I'm free till next Monday, not the one that's coming up. Oh, lambi chutti hai. So you're free till you have a week off now. I see, because I know that Navratri and, for us Bengalis, it's Durga Pujo. I think today might be like Doshami. I think it's the last day of the pujas maybe right now. It's always sad for me to not be in India during this time because it's the holidays. It's the autumnal festival time, which is very special for where I come from in Kolkata, India. And yeah. Oh, good, good. And so it turns out in Southeast Asia, various parts of Southeast Asia has various festivals at this time, and it's really a time of feasts and community and new clothes. Like when I was growing up, we had to wear new clothes. We didn't have to wear new clothes, but if we got new clothes, we wore them at this time. You know what I mean? Is there something like that going on with you, Yash? Rosie says, thank you for the emojis, Rosie. Yay! I love this pose of Suji because it makes her look like a little tiger who is sunbathing. So I got distracted and I never shared my live. So here I'm doing that right now. Yesterday I went on a little bit of a hike. It was sunny like this yesterday too. And it was really nice. I just came home from my aunt's house and I stayed there for 2 days, and this was the second day. Oh, wow. Is this your aunt from the dad's side or mom's side? Khala or Mosi? I think I'm getting these words right, hopefully. Dad's side, so Khala. Hala? Hala? Do you have cousins there, Yash? My dad's side. Puchi wants to say a small hi to you. Puchi is also here. He's too perfect. You're so perfect, Shona. So we went live a little late today because I was cleaning up some messes. You know, kitty cats had a few bathroom things I had to clean up. You know, someone here had a bit of a vomit. So those things are also part of our life. But then eventually, when they settle down and relax and we're sunbathing and I'm able to have my coffee, that's when I make this live stream. But before and after, there's quite a bit of other things as well. Can you answer this question? Which cat did you adopt first, and how old was the cat when you adopted? Oh, of course, yeah. It's Fuji, and he was 6 weeks old. He was very tiny. Fuji is my first baby. They were all adopted in a very tiny state, actually. So Fuji, I was the smallest when I got him. He was 6 weeks old. He was so tiny, he had to be given a special medicine. He had, because when they're kittens and they don't get the mother's milk and they don't get the proper caring because they are separated from their mom, it can be a big problem because their immune systems need help. So he had to take all these special medications and things like that. Really? Yes. Yeah. So I got pretty good at touch wood, thanks to God. I got pretty good at raising kittens actually because I got all of them as kittens. Even Suji and Baji, they were. Suji was around 11 weeks and Baji was around 8 weeks when I got Suji and Baji. So Suji and Baji were, older kitties when I got them because I'm used to them super young. Like Fuji was tiny, tiny, tiny. So 6 weeks is like, you have to be really careful because they can catch little colds. They get much more, say you give them a bath because, they're not been cleaned or something. You have to be very careful. Make the water lukewarm, make sure they're dried, and you have to dry them with the hair dryer, but with like a blow dryer, but on low setting so that because they need to be dried so they don't catch a cold, but also they're afraid of the blow dryer, so it has to be on a low setting. So lots of things like that. This one, that's why this one is my precious. So, because he was very, very, very small. So, and then they don't like the medication generally that they have to take as well. So they have to be tricked into taking this medicine, by mouth or with their food. So I learned all those tricks and tips. Like there's these treats that you can hide the medicine inside of them. And I bought them. No book today. No. We will have the book time today as well. I'm just catching up with my VIP guests here. We will continue the sad Cypress from chapter 10 today, actually, in just a little bit. But I'm just chatting with everybody first. So yeah, they had these special medications, and I had to hold them with their scruff and make sure that they got the medicine. And so the same thing happened with Suji and Baji. They were also pretty young, not as young as Fuji, but they also, they're new in the home. But on top of that, you're also taking care of a lot of different things like the meds and everything. But I had already gotten practice by then because I already had the experience. So yeah, your cat is scary. Okay. They act like me when I want to eat medicine. I don't like to eat medicine. They taste weird. Yeah, absolutely. They all would protest, especially Fuji. So Fuji has a big attitude. So because he is the king of this jungle. So he is the one that's will throw a fit, or at least try to do things his way, which is to not listen. But Suji and Baji are much more. They're much more manageable, I guess, in a way. They listen more. Now they have their challenges too, in the sense that Suji gets very scared in the car. She doesn't like to be, moved or transported. And Baji gets very scared, but he kind of just settles into the bottom of his carrier bag and almost disappears. He's almost in a different dimension when he's being transported. Like when he's scared, he gets very hidden. So yeah, all of that is, they're all very different. The what they do is all different depending on different situations. When I was young, actually, I liked to eat medicine so much. My mother used to scold me. It was a cough syrup. Oh, yeah, exactly. The cold, some sort of cold medicine, or sort of like some viral thing, or some vaccines. Those types of things are generally going on when you first adopt the kittens, especially when they're young. So yeah, they're all little kitty cats, and they were very, very little when they were adopted. So that's that story. I want to see your face, says Ayush. Okay, Ayush. One can certainly want things. FBI says no book today. Yes, we will have book today. Yeah. So FBI, I've also been giving some thought to some like physics books and studies that we can do as well. So I actually dug out this book. Let me show you. We will read this in the near future. So I have actually picked out some content in books that would sort of cover some of the more physics topics and things that we might want to talk about and discuss. So here's a book called Einstein's Cosmos by Michio Kaku. And let's see, Pearson publication. Maybe, I'm not, I just know the author's name. So Michio Kaku is let me read the back of this book. That'll give you some idea. So let me read to you a little bit of a description of this book, and we can cover this next week. So Einstein's Cosmos, How Albert Einstein's Vision Transformed Our Understanding of Space and Time by Michio Kaku. And in this enlightening book, Michio Kaku reassesses Einstein's work by centering on his three great theories, special relativity, general relativity, and the unified field theory, to give a new, refreshing look at his pioneering work and the enduring legacy of this exceptional man who set the agenda for modern physics. Kaku is a skillful and genial popularizer. While this is fully a biography, succinctly revisiting Einstein's difficult childhood and unpromising early career, his two marriages, and his emergence as a 20th century cultural icon, the guiding thread is undoubtedly the evolution of his ideas. So Michio Kaku is a popularizer. So he is I believe, a professor. Where is he teaching right now? I think, sorry, I should have, that's right. So he is at the Graduate Center of the City University of New York. So he is in one of the SUNYs. One of the most prominent and respected scientists today, Michio Kaku holds the Henry Semat Professorship in Theoretical Physics at the Graduate Center of the City University of New York. And he is also a co-founder of string field theory. He's the author of Hyperspace, Beyond Einstein, and Visions, How Science Will Revolutionize the 20th Century, or the 21st century, as well as numerous PhD-level textbooks that are required reading at many of the world's leading universities. So he is a professor at a university. He himself has contributed to string field theory, and he is also a popularizer in the sense that he has written books like this that kind of makes accessible some of these pretty difficult concepts like special relativity, general relativity, and Einstein's work. So I thought we can read a few chapters from this, especially on the topics that we were kind of discussing, like, because there's different levels of sort of understanding these things. And, some people, they're just interested in understanding it at a sort of a cultural level. What is string theory, special relativity, general relativity, these types of things we can kind of understand sort of from a book like this, which is like a popularizer, popular science book, right? It's a popular science book, meaning it's written for the general public. And it doesn't go into a lot of gory detail, but it goes into some detail which would sort of help with either, help with producing interest in the topic, or might even scratch the itch if you're interested in learning more about the topic, and then you go off and do more studies on it. But then there's also other books that I have that we can also study from that would go into more deep about the topics. So we can do all of this soon here. I have a question. What was your dream job when you were a child? Oh, that's a great question. I watched his YouTube videos. Michio Kaku's, you mean? Albert Einstein, is that the Einstein? Yes, Einstein's first name is Albert. So, yes, that's right. So, yeah, my dream job when I was a child, that's a great question. So, as far back as I can remember, my first job ambition was to be a writer. I wanted to be a writer. I loved books, I loved reading, and I loved writing. I was actually writing from a very young age. I didn't publish everything I wrote. I have some books that are out, but I write a lot that I don't publish. They need to be published, probably, in the sense that I need to put them in a book form, and I have a blog as well. So writer was my first ambition. And then also things like, so when I turned sort of 11, 12, then my ambition was to be a physicist. And actually this, what we just talked about, special relativity, general relativity, and the grand unified theory, those topics were actually what drove me to get this ambition. I wanted to study the universe and understand it better. And I got so interested in it. So then I wanted to be a physicist. And I did become a physicist. I became a writer too. So, yeah, my sister's dream is also become a writer. Yay! I love it. I love writing. So I think it's a sort of a natural mode for me to write. So that's been good. And then another thing about, being a physicist also is that it's really about lifelong learning. You can focus on one area of physics like I did in grad school for me, but then you can find another focus if you want and learn more about that. So through this channel and through some of your interests, we might explore some of these other physics topics, and that'll be really interesting for me as well. So that's why I thought I'll tell you a little bit about this book and these topics today, and then we will continue our book that we have been reading, which is Sad Cypress, which is a murder mystery. So I also really loved actually murder mysteries. So I would say Agatha Christie, the other author we're reading here, is also an inspiration of mine because she was so prolific. She wrote so much, and I also resonated with her love for writing. So all of these are the inspirations. Yash says, I want to become an artist. Oh, wow. What kind of art, Yash? Is it true that mathematicians are born different? FBI, are you okay, or do you just want to scream? Oh, I think FBI likes to write in all caps. Caps lock on, that's fine. And FBI asked, are mathematicians born different? I'm not sure. That would be, I guess, sort of a biology question or neurology, psychology question. I also actually really love psychology. So I have many interests, I'm a multi-passionate person here. So I have also taken classes in psychology post all my other schooling. And I did not cover this topic, which is, are mathematicians different? maybe there will be a time when I can learn about that too. So that's what's going on. So FBI, let me know in the comments here. Are you interested in learning more about, you know, what's covered here in Einstein's cosmos? Are you interested in the special relativity, general relativity, and grand unified theory type of topics? Let us know. I think we will cover these to some extent anyways, because these are extremely interesting topics, of course, and extremely useful topics. So I think we will cover these in some detail going forward. I have to tell you something funny. I'm a bit good in math. And when my friends don't understand a question in math, which is really easy, they ask me to tell them how to do it. Ooh, so you're the go-to math person, Yash? That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yash, when I was your age, I was actually quite scared of math and did not, I don't know, I always felt like I was trying, and not getting as good at it as I would like. And I was very scared because I think I was more, I don't know, I was more inclined towards literature, art, and all that. But, math is needed for physics. So that's what motivated me to become better at math, so that I could do physics. You were scared of it? Yeah, I was very scared of it. I think I was scared of the teachers. The math teachers were very strict and stern. So probably that. I was scared of math because of maybe how it was taught. FBI said, yeah, why not? I would love to. Oh, good. Okay, yeah, we will cover it. Math is easy once you understand the basics. Yeah. Yeah, I think I was more scared. I was not scared of the topic. I was more scared of the tests and the teachers and the sort of formal structure of how math was taught. But I wasn't really taught it in any other more casual or artistic setting, right? So I think I was just different. I was just had a bit of a different learning style, which was not really I don't know, accessible in this formal school structure. But I actually I loved math, physics, chemistry. I studied all that in college in the US. After moving to the US, I actually realized, oh, I'm actually not bad at math. Like, I know a lot of math relative to, my peers. And I was more than ready to take on a lot of these math classes and cover the math topics that were needed to study physics. But in India, I actually used to feel like I'm not good at it or something like that, or feel less confident about it, because I think I just didn't resonate with the way it was taught there. Math is boring, physics is more fun. Yes, I mean, math is not boring, Koi, but yes, physics is definitely more fun. I do think that if you like math a lot, honestly, nothing more fun than physics, because it's going to be constantly applied there. My sister is watching a Hindu show, Hindi show, you mean? Right now, and Iron know why, but she watched that show like every day. I see. Which show is it? Because physics you can actually see. In maths, you can visualize it only with graphs and stuff. Yeah, but there's a certain beauty of math as well, like proving something and logically following the steps and the reasoning is something that math allows you to do, right? And I actually really enjoyed that. Like, I like the logical reasoning of something. This is why I also like the murder mysteries, right? I like when you can think about something and logically reason something out and prove something out. So I actually liked the basic idea of math a lot. I was just not comfortable with how, I don't know, how it was tested, I suppose. So, but I agree that physics definitely helped to ground it, like ground math, and also helped to give me a lot of motivation to understand, for example, calculus. I also realized that what I liked about math the most was calculus, and that wasn't part of the curriculum until you're a bit older, right? So as soon as we've started calculus in, I think, like ninth grade or so, That's when I liked math a lot more. Because before then, I was like, okay, algebra, arithmetic, mental math. We had a class called mental math when I was in maybe fourth, fifth grade, third grade. And it's like, do something fast. And I can't do anything fast. So it might have been ninth grade, right? Yeah, I took additional math, like a special math class. So I took more math than the usual curriculum. And it might have been later. It might have been 10th, but somewhere around there in the last few years of high school. Paris lifestyle, ICSC. Uh, it was actually the state board. So I went to South Point High School and South Point School in Kolkata, and they followed just the state board. So I forget exactly when what happened, so don't quote me, but somewhere in there, either ninth or 10th grade or something like that, towards the end of high school, because there's only a few years left after ninth, right? I started to learn math and physics more together and how they connected together. And that's where it helped a lot to understand math. And also, I learned it from a physics teacher who was really, really good at explaining it. And so then I actually got more good at math than anything. So it kind of changes with time. I used to be, I used to think that I was really bad at it, but then I became really good at it. And in the US, I did really, really well at it because in the US, how they teach is kind of different. And I was already kind of prepared more coming in. Math calculation. Am I the only person who isn't saying math stuff? That's okay. You know, just a topic. We can move on. Math calculations and all the other stuff. That's okay. So, Yash, you didn't tell us what kind of artist you want to be. I find it more difficult to find a good math teacher compared to a physics teacher. Yeah, I mean, that's my experience too. Same. I basically, my favorite teacher was a physics teacher. That tells you everything, right? I mean, in the sense that I found the support I needed from a physicist rather than a mathematician. And physicists really understand math because they can put it in the context of where it's used, right? So I found that to be very useful. So just the way in which I learned. But yeah, I also really liked literature, art, poems, poetry, all that stuff as well. So I think I was more inclined, maybe had more natural talents there. And math and physics is something that I really had a lot of ambitions with, and I wanted to understand more just because it was such an interesting topic, and I wanted to learn the universe. So my math teacher is also the vice principal, and she lets us party and do everything we want, but she doesn't let us go until the bell rings. Okay. Yeah, well, she's strict, but she is also fun. That's really good, Yash. I think fun teachers who make learning fun are like the best. They're so needed, and they make such a big impact on people's lives, you know? So anyway, Yash, tell us what type of artist you want to be, because I don't think I caught that. Do you know about cat Capric maker's constant? I don't know if I'm catching this word correctly, but maybe you can clarify. Hi, do you remember me, Kaya? Yes, I've seen you before, Kaya. How are you? I don't know what type of artists there. Oh, I see. Artist as in like what I meant was like a painter, like you want to paint, or like an actor, acting, you know, theater, like a performing artist, or a, you know, that's what I'm fine. I changed my username though. Okay. Two bads. I love it. Two bads. Love it. Capricorn's constant. I don't believe so. I don't think I'm recognizing that. Let me put the phone down for just a second and get some Sorry, let me get my croissant. Actually, I want to eat my snack. Capricorn's constant. Oh, very nice. And because I'm a little hungry, I want to eat this croissant and drink my coffee and still chat with you, and then I'll start reading from the book. He was an Indian teacher. Oh, I draw with a pen or a pencil or even paint with paints. Ah, so you do like drawing and painting. That's awesome. That's what I thought, Yash. I was just wanting to confirm what you do. That's amazing. You should, I hope to see your art sometime. FBI says maths teacher. Ooh, you know what? Okay. Yeah, remind us what this constant is about, what his work is about in the chat, and we can learn with you and from you. You sketch portraits. I see, you're asking. All right, so give me 1 second. Let me get my croissant and I'll eat it while we keep chatting, and then I'll read. Oh, Baji is in such a cute face. Needs a little bit more. It's so good. Let's see. what pencil you use. Hi, Fuji. I'm going to be reading this. Yash is now flower. All right, so we'll get started reading in just a second here. It's kind of underrated. That makes sense. That's okay. We're happy that you're joining, Yash. About to start reading here soon. I'll share that. Oh my gosh. FBI said we should Google him. Okay, we will. Baji is coming to investigate my croissant. Baji, I can't share anything with you because it has chocolate in it. There's chocolate in this. Tea also. Sometimes draw, or did you stop drawing? Oh no, you stopped. Gotta keep doing the things you like, you know? It's important. That's important. All right, so now coming back to the book I liked, Chocolate Filled Croissant. Indeed. Indeed. Chocolate croissant is good. I got this from my favorite baker near me. They're in my neighborhood. I took pictures too. I'm just a bit. Okay. So, to remind you what was going on in this sad Cypress book, let me give you a little summary. Beautiful young Eleanor Carlile stood serenely in the dock, accused of the murder of Mary Gerard, her rival in love. The evidence was damning. Only Eleanor had the motive, the opportunity, and the means to administer the fatal poison. Yet, inside the hostile courtroom, only one man still presumed Eleanor was innocent until proven guilty. Hercule Poirot was all that stood between Eleanor and the gallows. So this is Sad Cypress by Agatha Christie, and we've seen in the part 1, it was narrated from the perspective of Eleanor and Roddy. They were supposed to get married. They were both related to the lady who just passed away, the older lady who was sick. But then she left everything to Eleanor because she did not make her will or update it. And also this young girl who was in the same state, the lodgekeeper's daughter, Mary Gerard, she was also poisoned / she also died. We don't know yet if the older lady, the aunt, whether she was given the morphine as well or not. They are trying to investigate that as well. But Mary Gerard was poisoned with morphine, and it turns out the evidence against Eleanor for having done that is very high. It's very strong. Everyone is thinking that Eleanor is the one who killed Mary by poisoning, because turns out that Roddy was in love with Mary, and his engagement with Eleanor was broken because of that. And Eleanor also gains from the death of the aunt as well. And because the aunt's death also kind of happened around those same situations of Eleanor being there, and, she had wanted to make her will or change her will based on probably giving something to Mary, people starts to now think that maybe Eleanor also killed her aunt. Not that we have confirmation that she did absolutely kill Mary Gerard, because that's still being investigated. And the aunt's doctor, Peter Lord, has basically employed Hercule Poirot, the famous detective, to investigate this whole case where we will, his hope is that Poirot can clear Eleanor's name because he really likes Eleanor. Yeah, here's Baji and here's Suji. Baji, Suji. Baji and Suji. So he thought, whether Eleanor is guilty or not, he would really like Poirot to work on the case and try, find something to clear the name of Eleanor. But as Poirot investigates, so far what he has kind of found is that not only could Eleanor have killed Mary, she might have even killed her own aunt, because the only person, the main person to benefit from her aunt's death is also herself, Eleanor, because, without updating the will, Eleanor is the one who gets everything. So this is the damning evidence that is against Eleanor, and Poirot continues to investigate. And we actually so on Tuesday we read a few more chapters, and what we did was we read until chapter 9 of part 2. So part 1 we already covered in previous live streams. Part 2 we started, and we read until chapter 9, where Poirot has been interviewing the different people. He even talked to Ted Bigland. Remember, Ted used to be the friend of Mary who was very shocked by her death, and he was basically saying, well, who could have wanted to kill Mary? Nobody Nobody seems to think that anybody should want to kill Mary. And of course, we know that Eleanor might have wanted to just because of that whole love rivalry thing. And also turns out for some will rivalry thing because her aunt might have wanted to leave Mary something as well, something substantial maybe. So as Poirot continues to investigate, excuse me, we will continue to read what happens here. And thank you so much to everybody for joining. Welcome to our live stream this brilliant Saturday with the kitty cats, with you and this book. Yash says, when Baji came near the camera, I thought a big rat came. That's okay. Sorry if you thought I was being rude. No worries. Tori, thank you so much for your emojis. New guy, hi. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Hi, how are you? So continue to dominate the chat and share your thoughts and feelings and how your day is going and what you think. And I'll continue reading. And of course, I'll read your comments in between the readings during my breaks from the reading. Okay, so we will get started with chapter 10 right now as we hang out with you and with Baji, Suji, and Fuji. So in this chapter, Poirot has found Nurse O'Brien, actually. This is a very important part because he's actually trying to investigate about the morphine. So remember at one point, one of the nurses had missing morphine tube from her attaché case, and she actually discovered that she was missing that and declared it to everybody. And after that, we didn't really know what happened or whether she found it or not. So here Poirot is investigating that. Nurse O'Brien tossed her red head and smiled widely across the tea table at the little man opposite her. She thought to herself, it's the funny little fellow he is, and his eyes green like any cat's. And with all that, Dr. Lord saying he's the clever one. Hercule Poirot said, it is a pleasure to meet someone so full of health and vitality. Your patients, I'm sure, must all recover. Nurse O'Brien said, I'm not one for pulling a long face, and not many of my patients die on me, I'm thankful to say. Poirot said, of course, in Mrs. Wellman's case, it was a merciful release. Ah, it was that, the poor dear. Her eyes were shrewd as she looked at Poirot and said, it is about that you want to talk to me? I was after hearing that they're digging her up. Poirot said, you yourself had no suspicion at the time? Not the least in the world, though indeed I might have had, with the face Dr. Lord had on him that morning, and him sending me here, there, and everywhere for things he didn't need. But he signed the certificate for all that. Poirot began, he had his reasons. But she took the words out of his mouth. Indeed, and he was right. It does a doctor no good to think things and offend the family, and then if he's wrong, it's the end of him, and no one would be wishing to call him in any more. A doctor's got to be sure. Poirot said, there is a suggestion that Mrs. Wellman might have committed suicide. She? And her lying there helpless? Just lift one hand, that was all she could do. Someone might have helped her? Ah, I see now what you're meaning. Miss Carlile or Mr. Wellman, or maybe Mary Gerard. It would be possible, would it not? Nurse O'Brien shook her head. She said they would not dare, any of them. Poirot said slowly, perhaps not. Then he said, when was it Nurse Hopkins missed the tube of morphine? It was that very morning. I'm sure I had it here, she said. Very sure she was at first, but you know how it is. After a while, your mind gets confused, and in the end, she made sure she had left it at home. So this is Nurse O'Brien who is talking about Nurse Hopkins missing the morphine tube. Because remember, Poirot wasn't really able to get information out of Nurse Hopkins with respect to the morphine tube. So now he's probing Nurse O'Brien to see if he can get some information. So Continuing on, it was that very morning. I'm sure I had it here, she said. Very sure she was at first, but you know how it is. After a while, your mind gets confused, and in the end, she made sure she had left it at home. Poirot murmured, and even then you had no suspicion? Not the least in the world. Sure, it never entered my head for a moment that things weren't as they should be. And even now, it is only a suspicion they have. The thought of that missing tube never caused either of you any uneasy moment? Well, I wouldn't say that. I do remember that it came into my head. And into Nurse Hopkins's head too, I believe, in the Blue Tit Cafe. We were at the time. And I saw the thought pass into her mind from mine. It couldn't be any other way than that I left it on the mantelpiece and it fell into the dustbin, could it? She says. Oh, oops. I dropped something. 1 second. That's okay. And no, indeed, that was the way of it, I said to her, and neither of us saying what was in our minds and the fear that was on us. Hercule Poirot asked, and what do you think now? Nurse O'Brien said, if they find morphine in her, there will be little doubt who took that tube, nor what it was used for, though I'll not be believing she sent the old lady the same road, till it's proved there's morphine in her. So Nurse O'Brien is, more open towards the fact that she may have been poisoned, the aunt. Poirot said, you have no doubt at all that Eleanor Carlile killed Mary Gerard? There's no question of it at all. In my opinion, who else had the reason or the wish to do it? That is the question, said Poirot. Nurse O'Brien went on dramatically. Wasn't I there that night when the old lady was trying to speak and Miss Eleanor promising her that everything should be done decently and according to her wishes? And didn't I see her face looking after Mary as she went down the stairs one day, and the black hate that was on it? It was murder she had in her heart that minute. Poirot said, if Eleanor Carlile killed Mrs. Wellman, why did she do it? Why? For the money, of course. £200,000, no less. £200,000, no less. Wow. That's what she got by it, and that's why she did it, if she did it. She's a bold, clever young lady with no fear in her and plenty of brains. Hercule Poirot said, if Mrs. Wellman had lived to make a will, how do you think she'd have left her money? It's not for me to be saying that, said Nurse O'Brien, betraying, however, every symptom of being about to do so. But it's my opinion that every penny the old lady had would have gone to Mary Gerard. Why? Said Hercule Poirot. The simple monosyllable seemed to upset Nurse O'Brien. Why? Is it why you're asking? Well, I'd say that would be the way of it. Poirot murmured, some people might say that Mary Gerard had played her cards very cleverly, that she had managed so to ingratiate herself with the old woman as to make her forget the ties of blood and affection. They might that, said Nurse O'Brien slowly. Poirot asked, was Mary Gerard a clever scheming girl? Nurse O'Brien said, still rather slowly, I'll not think that of her. All she did was natural enough, with no thought of scheming. She wasn't that kind, and there's no reasons. And there's reasons often for these things that never get made public. Hercule Poirot said softly, you are, I think, a very discreet woman, Nurse O'Brien. I'm not one to be talking of what doesn't concern me. Watching her very closely, Poirot went on, you and Nurse Hopkins, you have agreed together, have you not, that there are some things which are best not brought out into the light of day? Nurse O'Brien said, what would you be meaning by that? Poirot said quickly. Nothing to do with the crime or crimes, I mean the other matter. Nurse O'Brien said, nodding her head. What would be the use of raking up mud and an old story? And she oh, sorry. What would be the use of raking up mud and an old story? And she, a decent, elderly woman with never a breath of scandal about her and dying respected and looked up to by everybody. Hercule Poirot nodded in assent. He said cautiously, As you say, Mrs. Wellman was much respected in Maidensford. The conversation had taken an unexpected turn, but his face expressed no surprise or puzzlement. Nurse O'Brien went on. It's so long ago, too. All dead and forgotten. I've a soft heart for a romance myself. And I do say, and I always have said, that it's hard for a man who's got a wife in an asylum to be tied all his life with nothing but death that can free him. Poirot murmured, still in bewilderment. Yes, it is hard. Nurse O'Brien said, Did Nurse Hopkins tell you how her letter crossed mine? Poirot said truthfully, She did not tell me that. Oh, sorry, 1 second. It was an odd coincidence, but there. That's always the way of it. Once you hear a name, maybe and a day or two later, you'll come across it again, and so on and so on. That I should be seeing the self-same photograph on the piano at the same minute that Nurse Hopkins was hearing all about it from the doctor's housekeeper. That, said Poirot, is very interesting. He murmured tentatively. Did Mary Gerard know about this? Who'd be telling her? Said Nurse O'Brien. Not I, and not Hopkins. After all, what good would it be to her? She flung up her red head and gazed at him steadily. Poirot said with a sigh, What indeed? So that was chapter 10. So Poirot is trying to, get this information out of Nurse O'Brien. He doesn't actually know what she's talking about. Like, what did she and Nurse Hopkins talk about? What was the piece of gossip or information related to Mary or the aunt or whatever. He's trying to figure it out, but she's not saying everything. And he's trying to maneuver this information out of her so that he can find out what the gossip is or what the piece of information is that might help him to get pieces of this puzzle into place. So that's what's going on. That was chapter 10. Hi, Tori. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm going to read your comments in just a second, but I'll keep going for now. And thank you so much for chatting with each other. Love it. Chapter 11. Eleanor, Carlile, across the width of the table that separated them, Poirot looked at her searchingly. They were alone together. Through a glass wall, a warder watched them. Poirot noted the sensitive, intelligent face with the square, white forehead and the delicate modeling of the ears and nose, fine lines, a proud, sensitive creature showing breeding, self-restraint, and something else, a capacity for passion. He said, I am Hercule Poirot. I have been sent to you by Dr. Peter Lord. He thinks that I can help you. Eleanor, Carlile said. Peter Lord. Her tone was reminiscent. For a moment, she smiled a little wistfully. She went on formally. It was kind of him, but I do not think there is anything you can do. Hercule Poirot said, Will you answer my questions? She sighed. She said, Believe me, really, It would be better not to ask them. I'm in good hands. Mr. Seddon has been most kind. I am to have a very famous counsel. Poirot said, He's not so famous as I am. Eleanor Carlile said with a touch of weariness, He has a great reputation. Yes, for defending criminals. I have a great reputation for demonstrating innocence. She lifted her eyes at last, eyes of a vivid, beautiful blue. They looked straight into Poirot's. She said, Do you believe I'm innocent? Hercule Poirot said, Are you? Eleanor smiled, an ironic little smile. She said, Is that a sample of your questions? It is very easy, isn't it, to answer yes? He said unexpectedly, You're very tired, are you not? Her eyes widened a little. She answered, Why, yes. That, more than anything. How did you know? Hercule Poirot said, I knew. Eleanor said, I shall be glad when it is over. Poirot looked at her for a minute in silence. Then he said, I have seen your cousin, shall I call him for convenience, Mr. Roderick Wellman. Into the white, proud face, the color crept slowly up. He knew then that one question of his was answered without his asking it. She said, and her voice shook very slightly, You've seen Roddy? Poirot said, He's doing all he can for you. I know. Her voice was quick and soft. Poirot said, Is he poor or rich? Roddy, he has not very much money of his own. And he's extravagant? She said almost absently. Neither of us ever thought it mattered. We knew that someday. She stopped. Poirot said quickly, You counted on your inheritance? That is understandable. He went on. You have heard, perhaps, the result of the autopsy on your aunt's body? She died of morphine poisoning. Oh, goodness. Eleanor Carlile said coldly, I did not kill her. Did you help her to kill herself? Did I help? Oh, I see. No, I did not. Did you know that your aunt had not made a will? No, I had no idea of that. Her voice was flat now, dull. The answer was mechanical, uninterested. Poirot said, And you yourself, have you made a will? Yes. Did you make it the day Dr. Lord spoke to you about it? Yes. Again, that swift wave of color. Poirot said, How have you left your fortune, Miss Carlile? Eleanor said quietly, I have left everything to Roddy, to Roderick Wellman. Poirot said, Does he know that? She said quickly, Certainly not. You didn't discuss it with him? Of course not. He would have been horribly embarrassed and would have disliked what I was doing very much. Who else knows the contents of your will? Only Mr. Seddon and his clerks, I suppose. Did Mr. Seddon draw up the will for you? Yes, I wrote to him that same evening. I mean the evening of the day Dr. Lord spoke to me about it. Did you post your letter yourself? No, it went in the box from the house with the other letters. You wrote it, put it in an envelope, sealed it. 1 second, guys. I think Baji is hearing some people, and that's why he's afraid. Yeah, it's Baji. It was Baji, but he's scared now. Oh, there's some people in our yard. I don't know why they're here. Might be picking something up. Oh yeah, and there's a dog. Oh my god. Hi, Madeline. Hi, Solar. All right, what is going on here? Um, a few escaped enclosure, although about a year ago, and now we have an infestation every summer. I think Tori's talking about spiders. Is that right? I've been studying brown widows for so long. I know exactly and it's time to leave them alone. Is that like a spider? Black widow, brown widow? I don't know. She's talking about, yeah, a brown widow is just as deadly as a black, but a balloon widow is much easier to care for. I have 50 pat brown widows. Uh, I am an old one, Yash. Madeline says hi. Hi, Madeline. So um, I think Tori is talking about spiders. So that's okay, Tori. That's all right. We have a dog that eats the brown widows, though that takes care of most of the population. Lexi is sleeping in my room. Oh, nice. Tori, how is Lexi? I will now be leaving the live stream. Oh gosh. Were you guys not nice to Tori? Is that why she left? Tori, take care. I thought Fuji neighbor is mowing your lawn before going to work. No, I think they are picking something up. Like maybe like a Facebook marketplace type of thing, you know? Or maybe they're related to. Hi Tori, are you back? Thank you for joining us, Tori. You're most welcome. Tori, wow, that's my favorite thing to do. You like to watch kittens in the neighborhood? Oh. Yay, Tori, Yash, FBI, thank you for chatting with each other and being nice. Thank you so much. Baji over here is, I decided to stay on the live stream. Oh, thank you. Good. Thank you, Tori, and enjoy. Look at this. So Baji is very curious about what is happening in our backyard because there's a few people. It's okay, Baji. It's okay, Baji. They're not gonna come to our place. Don't worry, Baji. Baji Baba. It's okay. So I think he just wants to take a little space. But look at Suji. She is like, I'm gonna guard my territory here. She is not moving out away from the window. I decided, sorry, Tori, little Baji. Yes, Madeline, how are you? Neighbor looks suspicious. Well, I think the neighbor has invited some people to maybe like buy something or they're checking something out. Oh, I just saw him. I think he's working together with some people. He's in that yard. Okay. Buried bodies. No. I think they're working on the garden. Maybe his like I think it might be his parents. So Baji saw these people and he's like, who are these people? I've never seen them. So he got concerned. But I think it's just the neighbor and his family members. Look at them, they're all watching. All right, I'm gonna drink some of my coffee and then we'll resume the reading. Now that Fuji is here, Baji has gained more confidence. And they're all... Look at this. This is some spying of the neighbors that's going on here. Curious much, guys? Look at them. This is how you keep an eye on the neighbors. Just like Indian aunties. Yep. This is how one must keep an eye. How to keep everybody on the watch. Wow, Baji. Wow, Baji Suji. Can't believe to the extent with which you are spying. I think they're doing some garden work. Oh my God, I think the neighbor's gonna take care of the garden. Good. Bye, maybe I'll join later. Okay, Madeline, we will be here. Thank you for joining. And we'll still be here if you want to join us. I have to go. Yep, we'll be here tomorrow. Bye, Yash. Thank you for joining. See you tomorrow. Have a good night. We'll still be around if you decide to join us from a different phone. I know you have a few devices. A squash, the horse flying. Wow. Unbelievable levels of activities in the garden. But I'll continue reading. Oh my God, I think his parents are here. So I live in a building with other people too. Like there's neighbors in the other units. I think they're all here. They're working on the garden. Okay. All right, I'm going to continue reading. Guys, sorry about the interruption. So Poirot is interviewing Eleanor in jail. And this is how that looks. Eleanor said coldly, I did not kill her. Did you help her to kill herself? Did I help? Oh, I see. No, I did not. Did you know that your aunt had not made a will? No, I had no idea of that. Her voice was flat now, dull. The answer was mechanical, uninterested. Poirot said, and you yourself, have you made a will? Yes. Did you make it the day Dr. Lord spoke to you about it? Yes. Again, that swift wave of color. Poirot said, how have you left your fortune, Miss Carlile? Eleanor said quietly, I have left everything to Roddy, to Roderick Wellman. Poirot said, does he know that? She said quickly, certainly not. You didn't discuss it with him? Of course not. He would have been horribly embarrassed and would have disliked what I was doing very much. Who else knows the contents of your will? Only Mr. Seddon and his clerks, I suppose. Did Mr. Seddon draw up the will for you? Yes, I wrote to him that same evening. I mean the evening of the day Dr. Lord spoke to me about it. Did you post the letter yourself? No, it went in the box from the house with the other letters. You wrote it, put it in an envelope, sealed it, stamped it, and put it in the box. You did not pause to reflect, to read it over? Okay. Eleanor said, staring at him. I read it over, yes. I had gone to look for some stamps. When I came back with them, I just reread the letter to be sure I had put it clearly. Was anyone in the room with you? Only Roddy. Did he know what you were doing? I told you, no. Could anyone have read that letter when you were out of the room? I don't know. One of the servants, you mean? I suppose they could have if they had chanced to come in and while I was out of the room. And before Mr. Roderick Wellman entered it? Yes, Poirot said. And he could have read it too? Eleanor's voice was clear and scornful. She said, I can assure you, Mosey Poirot, that my cousin, as you call him, does not read other people's letters. Poirot said, that is the accepted idea, I know. You would be surprised how many people do the things that are not done. Eleanor shrugged her shoulders. Poirot said in a casual voice, was it on that day that the idea of killing Mary Gerard first came to you? For the third time, color swept over Eleanor Carlyle's face. This time, it was a burning tide. She said, did Peter Lord tell you that? Poirot said gently, it was then, wasn't it? When you looked through the window and saw her making her will, it was then, was it not, that it struck to you how funny it would be and how convenient if Mary Gerard should happen to die? Eleanor said in a low, suffocated voice. He knew. He looked at me and he knew. Poirot said, Dr. Lord knows a good deal. He's no fool. That young man with the freckled face and the red hair. Eleanor said in a low voice, is it true that he sent you to help me? Is it true, mademoiselle? Is it true that he sent you to help me? It is true, mademoiselle. She sighed and said, I don't understand. No, I don't understand. Poirot said, listen, Miss Carlile. It is necessary that you tell me just what happened that day when Mary Gerard died. Where you went, what you did, more than that, I want to know even what you thought. She stared at him. Then slowly a queer little smile came to her lips. She said, you must be an incredibly simple man. Don't you realize how easy it is for me to lie to you? Hercule Poirot said placidly, it does not matter. She was puzzled. Not matter? No. For lies, mademoiselle, tell a listener just as much truth. It does not matter. For lies, mademoiselle, tell a listener just as much truth can. Wow. Thank you for the emoji story. Sometimes they tell more. Come now, commence. You met your housekeeper, the good Mrs. Bishop. She wanted to come and help you. You would not let her. Why? I wanted to be alone. Why? 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 Because I wanted to think. You wanted to imagine, yes, and then what did you do next? Eleanor, her chin raised defiantly, said, I bought some paste for sandwiches. 2 pots? 2. And you went to Hunterbury. What did you do there? I went up to my aunt's room and began to go through her things. What did you find? Find, she frowned. Clothes, old letters, photographs, jewelry. Poirot said, no secrets? Secrets? I don't understand you. Then let us proceed. What next? Eleanor said, I came down to the pantry and I cut sandwiches. All right, bye, FBI. See you next time. I came down to the pantry and I cut sandwiches. Poirot said softly, and you thought, what? Her blue eyes flushed suddenly. She said, I thought of my namesake, Eleanor of Aquitaine. Poirot said, I understand perfectly. Do you? Oh, yes, I know the story. She offered fair Rosamond, did she not, the choice of a dagger or a cup of poison? Rosamond chose the poison. Hi, Bradley. Hi, Bradley. Good, how are you? It's sunny and brilliant. We are reading this rather intriguing chapter from Sad Cypress, Agatha Christie. So, Eleanor is sharing her deep thoughts with Poirot. So she thought of Eleanor Aquitaine, and Poirot said that he understands. Eleanor is surprised, so she asked, "Do you?" And then Poirot says, "Oh yes, I know the story." Thank you. She offered fair Rosamond, did she not, the choice of a dagger or a cup of poison. Rosamond chose the poison. Eleanor said nothing. She was white now. Poirot said, "But perhaps this time there was to be no choice." "Go on, mademoiselle, what next?" Eleanor said, "I put the sandwiches ready on a plate and I went down to the lodge. Nurse Hopkins was there as well as Mary. I told them I had some sandwiches up at the house." Poirot was watching her. He said softly, "Yes, and you all came up to the house together, did you not?" "Yes, we ate the sandwiches in the morning room." Poirot said, in the same soft tone, "Yes, yes, still in the dream, and then?" "Then," she stared, "I left her. Standing by the window, I went out into the pantry. It was still like you say, in a dream. Nurse was there washing up. I gave her the paste pot." "Yes, yes, and what happened then? What did you think of next?" Eleanor said dreamily, "There was a mark on Nurse's wrist. I mentioned it, and she said it was a thorn from the rose trellis by the lodge. The roses by the lodge. Roddy and I had a quarrel once, long ago, about the Wars of the Roses. I was Lancaster and he was York. He liked white roses. I said they weren't real. They didn't even smell. I liked red roses, big and dark and velvety and smelling of summer. We quarreled in the most idiotic way. You see, it all came back to me there in the pantry, and something broke. The black hate I had in my heart. It went away with remembering how we were together as children. I didn't hate Mary anymore. I didn't want her to die." She stopped. But later, when we went back into the morning room, she was dying. She stopped. Poirot was staring at her very intently. She flushed and said, "Will you ask me again? Did I kill Mary Gerard?" Poirot rose to his feet. He said quickly, "I shall ask you nothing. There are things I do not want to know." Wow, that was chapter 11, guys. Bradley says, "Very nice book. Thank you." Let me read about this rose thing again. It's interesting. So she thought about roses when she saw the mark on Nurse's wrist. She said, "I mentioned it, and she said it was a thorn from the rose trellis by the lodge. The roses by the lodge. Roddy and I had a quarrel once, long ago, about the Wars of the Roses. I was Lancaster, and he was York. He liked white roses. I said they weren't real. They didn't even smell. I liked red roses, big and dark and velvety and smelling of summer. We quarreled in the most idiotic way. You see, it all came back to me there in the pantry, and something broke. The black hate I had had in my heart. It went away with remembering how we were together as children. I didn't hate Mary anymore. I didn't want her to die." She stopped, but later, when we went back into the morning room, she was dying. She stopped. Poirot was staring at her very intently. She flushed and said, "Will you ask me again? Did I kill Mary Gerard?" Poirot rose to his feet. He said quickly, "I shall ask you nothing. There are things I do not want to know." All right. That was chapter 11. Poirot just met Eleanor. Now we go to chapter 12. Dr. Lord met the train at the station as requested. Hercule Poirot alighted from it. He looked very Londonified and was wearing pointed patent leather shoes. Peter Lord scrutinized his face anxiously, but Hercule Poirot was giving nothing away. Peter said, I've done my best to get answers to your questions. First, Mary Gerard left here for London on July 10th. Second, I haven't got a housekeeper. A couple of giggling girls run my house. I think you must mean Mrs. Slattery, who was Ransome's, my predecessor's housekeeper. I can take you to her this morning if you like. I've arranged that she shall be in. Poirot said, Yes, I think it would be as well if I saw her first. Then you said you wanted to go to Hunterbury. I could come with you there. It beats me why you haven't been there already. I can't think why you wouldn't go when you were down here before. I should have thought the first thing to be done in a case like this was to visit the place where the crime took place. Holding his head a little on one side, Hercule Poirot inquired, Why? Why? Peter Lord was rather disconcerted by the question. Isn't it the usual thing to do? Hercule Poirot said, One does not practice detection with a textbook. One uses one's natural intelligence. Peter Lord said, You might find a clue of some sort there. Poirot sighed, You read too much detective fiction. Your police force in this country is quite admirable. I have no doubt that they searched the house and grounds most carefully for evidence against Eleanor Carlile, not for evidence in her favor. Poirot sighed. My dear friend, it is not a monster, this police force. Eleanor Carlile was arrested because sufficient evidence was found to make out a case against her. A very strong case, I may say. It was useless for me to go over ground when the police had gone over it already. But you do want to go there now? Objected Peter. Hercule Poirot nodded his head. He said, Yes, now it is necessary, because now I know exactly what I'm looking for. One must understand with the cells of one's brain before one uses one's eyes. Then you do think there might be something there still? Poirot said gently, I have a little idea. We shall find something, yes. Something to prove Eleanor's innocence? Ah, I did not say that. Peter Lord stopped dead. You don't mean you still think she's guilty? Poirot said gravely. You must wait, my friend, before you get an answer to that question. All right. Keep going. Poirot lunched with the doctor in a pleasant square room with a window open onto the garden. Lord said, Did you get what you wanted out of old Slattery? Poirot nodded. Yes. What did you want with her? Gossip. Talk about old days. Some crimes have their roots in the past. I think this one had. Peter Lord said irritably, I don't understand a word you're talking about. Poirot smiled. He said, This fish is deliciously fresh. Lord said impatiently, I dare say I caught it myself before breakfast this morning. Look here, Poirot. Am I to have any idea what you're driving at? Why keep me in the dark? The other shook his head. Because as yet there is no light. I'm always brought up short by the fact that there was no one who had any reason to kill Mary Gerard except Eleanor Carlile. Peter Lord said, You can't be sure of that. She had been abroad for some time, remember? Yes, I have made the inquiries. You've been to Germany yourself? Myself? No. With a slight chuckle, he added, I have my spies. Can you depend on other people? Certainly. It is not for me to run here and there, doing amateurishly the things that for a small sum someone else can do with professional skill. I can assure you, mon cher, I have several irons on the fire. I have some useful assistants, one of them a former burglar. What do you use him for? The last thing I've used him for was a very thorough search of Mr. Wellman's flat. What was he looking for? Poirot said, One always likes to know exactly what lies have been told one. Did Mr. Wellman tell you a lie? Definitely. Who else has lied to you? Everybody, I think. Nurse O'Brien romantically, Nurse Hopkins stubbornly, Mrs. Bishop venomously. You yourself? Good God! Peter Lord interrupted him unceremoniously. You don't think I've lied to you, do you? Not yet, Poirot admitted. Dr. Lord sank back in his chair. He said, You're a disbelieving sort of fellow, Poirot. Then he said, If you've finished, shall we set off to Hunterbury? I've got some patients to see later, and there's the surgery. I'm at your disposal, my friend. They set off on foot, entering the grounds by the back drive. Halfway up it, they met a tall, good-looking young fellow wheeling a barrow. He touched his cap respectfully to Dr. Lord. Good morning, Horlick. This is Horlick, the gardener, Poirot. He was working here that morning. Horlick said, Yes, sir, I was. I saw Miss Eleanor that morning and talked to her. Poirot asked, What did she say to you? She told me the house was as good as sold, and that rather took me aback, sir. But Miss Eleanor said... as how she'd speak for me to Major Somerville, and that maybe he'd keep me on. If he didn't think me too young, perhaps, as head, seeing as how I had good training under Mr. Stevens here. Dr. Lord said, Did she seem much the same as usual, Horlick? Why, yes, sir, except that she looked a bit excited, like, as though she had something on her mind. Hercule Poirot said, Did you know Mary Gerard? Oh, yes, sir, but not very well, Poirot said. What was she like? Horlick looked puzzled. Like, sir? Do you mean to look at? Not exactly. I mean, what kind of a girl was she? Oh, well, sir, she was a very superior sort of a girl. Nice spoken and all that. Thought a lot of herself, I should say. You see, old Mrs. Wellman had made a lot of fuss over her. Made her father wild, that did. He was like a bear, with a sore head about it. Poirot said, By all that I've heard, he had not the best of tempers. That one? No, indeed he hadn't. Always grumbling and crusty as they make them. Seldom had a civil word for you. Poirot said, You were here on that morning. Whereabouts were you working? Mostly in the kitchen garden, sir. You cannot see the house from there? No, sir. Peter Lord said, If anybody had come up to the house, up to the pantry window, you wouldn't have seen them? No, I wouldn't, sir. Peter Lord said, When did you go to your dinner? 1 o'clock, sir. And you didn't see anything? Any man hanging about or a car outside, anything like that? The man's eyebrows rose in slight surprise. Outside the back gate, sir. There was your car there, nobody else's. Peter Lord cried. My car? It wasn't my car. I was over Withenbury direction that morning. Didn't get back till after 2. Horlick looked puzzled. I made sure it was your car, sir, he said doubtfully. Peter Lord said quickly, Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Good morning, Horlick. He and Poirot moved on. Horlick stared after them for a minute or two, then slowly resumed his progress with the wheelbarrow. Peter Lord said softly, but with great excitement, Something at last. Whose car was it standing in the lane that morning? Poirot said, What make is your car, my friend? A Ford 10, sea green. They're pretty common, of course. And you are sure it was not yours? You haven't mistaken the day? Absolutely certain. I was over at Withenbury. Came back late, snatched a bit of lunch, and then the call came through about Mary Gerard, and I rushed over. Poirot said softly, Then it would seem, my friend, that we have come upon something tangible at last. Peter Lord said, Someone was here that morning. Someone who was not Eleanor Carlile, not Mary Gerard, and nor Nurse Hopkins. Poirot said, That is very interesting. Come, let us make our investigations. Let us see, for instance, supposing a man or woman were to wish to approach the house unseen, how they would set about it. Halfway along the drive, a path branched off through some shrubbery. They took this, and at a certain turn in it, Peter Lord clutched Poirot's arm, pointing to a window. He said, "That's the window of the pantry, where Eleanor Carlile was cutting the sandwiches." Poirot murmured, "And from here, anyone could see her cutting them. The window was open, if I remember rightly." Peter Lord said, "It was wide open. It was a hot day, remember?" Hercule Poirot said musingly, "Then if anyone wished to watch unseen what was going on, somewhere about here would be a good spot." The two men cast about. Peter Lord said, "There's a place here, behind these bushes. Some stuff's been trampled down here. It's grown up again now, but you can see plainly enough." Poirot joined him. He said thoughtfully, "Yes, this is a good place. It is concealed from the path, and that opening in the shrubs gives one a good view of the window. Now, what did he do, our friend who stood here? Did he perhaps smoke?" They bent down, examining the ground and pushing aside the leaves and branches. Suddenly, Hercule Poirot uttered a grunt. Peter Lord straightened up from his own search. "What is it?" "A matchbox, my friend." An empty matchbox, trodden heavily into the garden, sodden and decayed. With care and delicacy, he salved the object. He displayed it at last on a sheet of notepaper taken from his pocket. Peter Lord said, "It's foreign." "My God! German matches!" Hercule Poirot said, "And Mary Gerard had recently come from Germany." Peter Lord said exultantly, "We've got something now. You can't deny it." Hercule Poirot said slowly, "Perhaps. But damn it all, man, who on earth around here would have had foreign matches?" Hercule Poirot said, I know. His eyes, perplexed eyes, went to the gap in the bushes and the view of the window. He said, "It is not quite so simple as you think. There is one great difficulty. Do you not see it yourself?" "What?" "Tell me." Poirot sighed. "If you do not see for yourself. But come, let us go on." Hi, Baji. Ah, hi, Baji. Hi, Baji. They went on to the house. Peter Lord unlocked the back door with a key. He led the way through the scullery to the kitchen, through that, along a passage where there was a cloakroom on one side and the butler's pantry on the other. The two men looked around the pantry. It had the usual cupboards with sliding glass doors for glass and china. There was a gas ring and 2 kettles and canisters marked tea and coffee on a shelf above. There was a sink and draining board and a papier-mâché washing up bowl. In front of the window was a table. Peter Lord said, "It was on this table that Eleanor Carlile cut the sandwiches. The fragment of the morphine label was found in this crack in the floor under the sink." Poirot said thoughtfully, "The police are careful searchers. They do not miss much." Peter Lord said violently, "There's no evidence that Eleanor ever handled that tube. I tell you, someone was watching her from the shrubbery outside. She went down to the lodge and he saw his chance and slipped in, uncorked the tube, crushed some tablets of morphine to powder, and put them into the top sandwich. He never noticed that he had torn a bit of the label of the tube and that it had fluttered down the crack. He hurried away, started up his car, and went off again." Poirot sighed. "And still you do not see. It is extraordinary how dense an intelligent man can be." Peter Lord demanded angrily, "Do you mean to say that you don't believe someone stood in those bushes watching the window?" Poirot said, "Yes, I believe that." "Then we've got to find whoever it was." Poirot murmured, "We shall not have to look far, I fancy." "Do you mean you know?" "I have a very shrewd idea." Peter Lord said slowly, "Then your minions who made inquiries in Germany did bring you something, Hercule Poirot said, tapping his forehead. My friend, it is all here, in my head. Come, let us look over the house. Oh my God. They stood at last in the room where Mary Gerard had died. The house had a strange atmosphere in it. It seemed alive, with memories and forebodings. Peter Lord flung up one of the windows. He said with a slight shiver, This place feels like a tomb. Poirot said, If walls could speak, it is all here, is it not? Here in the house, the beginning of the whole story. He paused and then said softly, It was here in this room that Mary Gerard died. Peter Lord said, They found her sitting in that chair by the window. Hercule Poirot said thoughtfully, A young girl, beautiful, romantic. Did she scheme and intrigue? Was she a superior person who gave herself airs? Was she gentle and sweet, with no thought of intrigue? Just a young thing beginning life, a girl like a flower. Whatever she was, said Peter Lord, someone wished her dead. Hi, Leroy. Hi, Patrick. Hi, FBI. Hercule Poirot murmured, I wonder. Lord stared at him. What do you mean? Poirot shook his head. Not yet. He turned about. We've been all through the house. We've seen all that there is to be seen. Let us go down to the lodge. Here again, all was in order. The rooms dusty but neat and emptied of personal possessions. The two men stayed only a few minutes. As they came out into the sun, Poirot touched the leaves of a pillar rose growing up a trellis. It was pink and sweet-scented. He murmured, Do you know the name of this rose? It is Zephyrin Drohin, my friend. Peter Lord said irritably, What of it? Hercule Poirot said, When I saw Eleanor Carlile, she spoke to me of roses. It was then that when I saw Eleanor Carlile, she spoke to me of roses. It was then that I began to see, not daylight, but the little glimpse of light that one gets in a train when one is about to come out of a tunnel. It is not so much daylight, but the promise of daylight. Peter Lord said harshly, What did she tell you? She told me of her childhood, of playing here in this garden, and of how she and Roderick Wellman were on different sides. They were enemies, for he preferred the white rose of York, cold and austere, and she, so she told me, loved red roses, the red rose of Lancaster, red roses that have scent and color and passion and warmth, and that, my friend, is the difference between Eleanor Carlile and Roderick Wellman. Peter Lord said, Does that explain anything? Poirot said, It explains Eleanor Carlile, who is passionate and proud and who loved desperately a man who was incapable of loving her. Peter Lord said, I don't understand you. Poirot said, But I understand her. I understand both of them. Now, my friend, we will go back once more to that little clearing in the shrubbery. They went there in silence. Peter Lord's freckled face was troubled and angry. When they came to the spot, Poirot stood motionless for some time, and Peter Lord watched him. Then suddenly the little detective gave a vexed sigh. He said, It is so simple, really. Do you not see, my friend, the fatal fallacy in your reasoning? According to your theory, someone, a man, presumably, who had known Mary Gerard in Germany, came here intent on killing her. But look, my friend, look. Use the two eyes of your body, since the eyes of the mind do not seem to serve you. What do you see from here? A window, is it not? And at that window, a girl cutting sandwiches. That is to say, Eleanor Carlile. But think for a minute of this. What on earth was to tell the watching man that those sandwiches were going to be offered to Mary Gerard? No one knew that but Eleanor Carlile herself. Nobody. Not even Mary Gerard, nor Nurse Hopkins. So what follows if a man stood here watching, and if he afterwards went to that window and climbed in and tampered with the sandwiches? What did he think and believe? He must have thought, that the sandwiches were to be eaten by Eleanor Carlile herself. There we go. That was chapter 12. Yes, I knew it. I knew they were men. I knew it. I called it. I didn't tell you, but I basically thought the same thing. I was like, if somebody else tampered with the sandwiches, it would have been that they thought it was to be eaten by Eleanor. They weren't trying to kill Mary. They were trying to kill Eleanor. Yes! Okay, we'll keep reading. Let me sip my coffee a bit. Chapter 13. Poirot knocked at the door of Nurse Hopkins's cottage. She opened it to him with her mouth full of bath bun. She said sharply, "Well, Mr. Poirot, what do you want now? I may enter?" Somewhat grudgingly, Nurse Hopkins drew back, and Poirot was permitted to cross the threshold. Nurse Hopkins was hospitable with the teapot, and a minute later Poirot was regarding with some dismay a cup of inky beverage. "Just made, nice and strong," said Nurse Hopkins. Poirot stirred his tea cautiously and took one heroic sip. He said, "Have you any idea why I have come here?" "I couldn't say, I'm sure, until you tell me. I don't profess to be a mind reader. I've come to ask you for the truth." Nurse Hopkins uprose in wrath. "And what's the meaning of that?" "I should like to know. A truthful woman I've always been, not one to shield myself in any way. I spoke up about that missing tube of morphine at the inquest when many a one in my place would have sat tight and said nothing. For well enough did I know that I should get censured for carelessness in leaving my case about. And after all, it's a thing that might happen to anybody. I was blamed for that, and it won't do me any good in my profession, I can tell you. But that didn't make any difference to me. I knew something that had a bearing on the case, and so I spoke. And so I spoke out. And I'll thank you, Mr. Poirot, to keep any nasty insinuations to yourself. There's not a thing about Mary Gerard's death that I haven't been open and above board as daylight about, and if you think differently, I'd be obliged if you'd give chapter and verse for it. I've concealed nothing at all, and I'm prepared to take the oath and stand up in court and say so." Poirot did not attempt to interrupt. He knew only too well the technique of dealing with an angry woman. He allowed Nurse Hopkins to flare up and simmer down. Then he spoke, quietly and mildly. He said, "I did not suggest that there is anything about the crime which you have not told." "Then what did you suggest? I'd like to know." "I asked you to tell the truth, not about the death, but about the life of Mary Gerard." Look at Suchi, little baby. "Oh," Nurse Hopkins seemed momentarily taken aback. She said, "So that's what you're getting at? But it's got nothing to do with the murder." "I did not say that it had. I said that you were withholding knowledge concerning her." "Why shouldn't I, if it's nothing to do with the crime?" Poirot shrugged his shoulders. "Why should you?" Nurse Hopkins, very red in the face, said, "Because it's common decency. They're all dead now, everyone concerned, and it's no business of anyone else's." "If it is only surmise, perhaps not. But if you have actual knowledge, that is different." Nurse Hopkins said slowly. I don't know exactly what you mean. Poirot said. I will help you. I've had hints from Nurse O'Brien, and I've had a long conversation with Mrs. Slattery, who has a very good memory for events that happened over 20 years ago. I will tell you exactly what I've learned. Well, over 20 years ago, there was a love affair between two people. One of them was Mrs. Wellman, who had been a widow for some years, and who was a woman capable of a deep and passionate love. The other party. 1 second, sorry. Okay, we're back. One of them was Mrs. Wellman, who had been a widow for some years and who was a woman capable of a deep and passionate love. The other party was Sir Lewis Rycroft, who had the great misfortune to have a wife who was hopelessly insane. The law in those days gave no promise of relief by divorce, and Lady Rycroft, whose physical health was excellent, might live to 90. The liaison between those two people was, I think, guessed at, but they were both discreet and careful to keep up appearances. Then Sir Lewis Rycroft was killed in action. Well, said Nurse Hopkins, I suggest, said Poirot, there was a child born after his death, and that child was Mary Gerard. Nurse Hopkins said, You seem to know all about it. Poirot said, That is what I think, but it is possible that you have got definite proof that that is so. Nurse Hopkins sat silent a minute or two, frowning. Then abruptly she rose, went across the room, opened a drawer, and took out an envelope. She brought it across to Poirot. She said, I'll tell you how this came into my hands. Mind, I'd had my suspicions. The way Mrs. Wellman looked at the girl, for one thing, and then hearing the gossip on top of it. And old Gerard told me, when he was ill, that Mary wasn't his daughter. Well, after Mary died, I finished clearing up the lodge, and in a drawer, amongst some of the old man's things, I came across this letter. You see what's written on it. Poirot read the superscription, written in faded ink. For Mary, to be sent to her after my death. Poirot said, This writing is not recent. It wasn't Gerard who wrote that, explained Nurse Hopkins. It was Mary's mother, who died 14 years ago. She meant this for the girl, but the old man kept it amongst his things, and so she never saw it. And I'm thankful she didn't. She was able to hold up her head to the end, and she had no cause to feel ashamed. She paused and then said, Well, it was sealed up, but when I found it, I'll admit to you that I opened it and read it then and there, which I dare say I should not have done. But Mary was dead, and I guessed more or less at what was inside it, and I didn't see that it was any concern of anyone else's. All the same, I haven't liked to destroy it, because I didn't feel somehow it would be right to do that. But there, you'd better read it yourself. Poirot drew out the sheet of paper covered in small angular writing. Okay. All right, let's read the letter. Poirot drew out the sheet of paper covered in small angular writing. This is the truth I've written down here in case it should ever be needed. I was lady's maid to Mrs. Wellman at Hunterbury, and very kind to me she was. I got into trouble, and she stood by me and took me back into her service when it was all over, but the baby died. My mistress and Sir Lewis Rycroft were fond of each other, but they couldn't marry because he had a wife already, and she was in a madhouse, poor lady. He was a fine gentleman and devoted to Mrs. Wellman. he was killed, and she told me soon after that she was going to have a child. After that, she went up to Scotland and took me with her. The child was born there, at Ardlochry. Bob Gerard, who had washed his hands off me and flung me off when I had my trouble, had been writing to me again. The arrangement was that we should marry and live at the lodge, and he should think that the baby was mine. If we lived on the place, it would seem natural that Mrs. Wellman should be interested in the child, and she'd see to educating her and giving her a place in the world. She thought it would be better for Mary never to know the truth. Mrs. Wellman gave us both a handsome sum of money, but I would have helped her without that. I've been quite happy with Bob, but he never took to Mary. I've held my tongue, never said anything to anybody, but I think it's right, in case I die, that I should put this down in black and white. Eliza Gerard, born Eliza Riley. Hercule Poirot drew a deep breath and folded up the letter again. Nurse Hopkins said anxiously, "What are you going to do about it? They're all dead now. It's no good raking up these things." Everyone looked up to Mrs. Wellman in these parts. There's never been anything said against her. All this old scandal. It would be cruel. The same with Mary. She was a sweet girl. Why should anyone have to know that she was a bastard? Let the dead rest in peace in their graves. That's what I say. Poirot said, "One has to consider the living." Nurse Hopkins said, "But this has got nothing to do with the murder." Hercule Poirot said gravely, "It may have a great deal to do with it." He went out of the cottage, leaving Nurse Hopkins with her mouth open, staring after him. He had walked some way when he became aware of hesitating footsteps just behind him. He stopped and turned around. It was Horlick, the young gardener from Hunterbury. He was looking the picture of embarrassment and twisting his cap round and round in his hands. "Excuse me, sir. Could I have a word with you?" Horlick spoke with a kind of a gulp. "Certainly. What is it?" Horlick twisted the cap even more fiercely. He said, averting his eyes and looking the picture of misery and embarrassment, "It's about that car. The car that was outside the back gate that morning?" "Yes, sir. Dr. Lord said this morning that it wasn't his car." "But it was, sir." "You know that for a fact?" "Yes, sir, because of the number, sir. It was MSS 2022. I noticed it particular, MSS 2022. You see, we know it in the village and always call it Miss Tutu." "I'm quite sure of it, sir." Miss Tutu, that's right, MSS 2022. "You see, we know it in the village and always call it Miss Tutu." "I'm quite sure of it, sir," Poirot said with a faint smile. But Dr. Lord says he was over at Withenbury that morning." Horlick said miserably, "Yes, sir, I heard him, but it was his car, sir. I'll take my oath on that." Poirot said gently, "Thank you, Horlick. That's just exactly what you may have to do." All right. All right, we finished part 2. Yay, look at that. So we started from chapter 10 of part 2 today, because we read the previous chapters in the previous live streams, and we just finished part 2. So Poirot has been doing his investigations of this case. He has interviewed lots of people, including the nurses, Mary Gerard's friend. Even he's had quite a few conversations with Peter Lord, of course, who employed him for this case. And he even got a chance to see Eleanor Carlile in jail. And he's learned a lot in this whole business. So that's how things are. The next reading will be part 3. And I think it'll be back to the perspective of Eleanor, because part one we saw was being narrated sort of from the perspective of Eleanor, and then part two is from the perspective of Poirot doing his investigation, and now we're starting a new part three. So we've learned a lot of interesting things in this part. We've learned about Mary Gerard's story. She was the child of the older lady, Mrs. Wellman, but she was kept as the lodge keeper's daughter because Mrs. Wellman had to keep her relationship a secret because the man she was with was married with a wife in the asylum. And so their child, Mary, was also kept a secret and raised by the lodge keeper, but they were all in the same estate, and she was fond of Mary and kept her close till the end. And now they're both dead. Mary's dead and Mrs. Wellman is dead. And so the nurse who found out about this did not feel like she wants to talk to people, tell people or tell Poirot about it, because why ruin their reputation? But then Poirot thinks that it may actually have a connection to the case. So that is what is going on. I think perhaps we will pick up part 3 from tomorrow. That should make it easy to start reading from. We will go live again tomorrow afternoon, same time, with the kitty cats and chat with you and catch up and read this book again next time from the part 3. What do you guys think of that? FBI said, how long will they look outside? Well, kitty cats do like to look out the window. How many chapters? So this book has, it looks like there are 3 parts. We've finished part 1, all of the chapters, and part 2, all of the chapters. And now we're on part 3. And each of the parts are sort of written or narrated in a slightly different way, giving us the story in a slightly different way. So we've seen it now from Poirot's perspective. He's investigating. And also, one of the things that we found out in this last part was that, you know, this theory about the man standing in the shrubbery, they found that German matchstick, and Poirot was with Peter Lord at the time, and he said that, well, if somebody was standing from the shrubbery and looking at the window where Eleanor Carlile was cutting the sandwiches, then they would have seen Eleanor cutting sandwiches and preparing sandwiches, meaning that she would be eating those sandwiches. So if they were trying to poison somebody, it would be Eleanor that they would be trying to poison, not Mary, because they couldn't have known that Mary would eat those sandwiches, right? So it's kind of, I think this is sort of the subtle thing that I also thought about when we were reading, but I didn't say anything because I wanted to find out in the book. But that's where the author is really brilliant. Like, you know, she'll lead us to think something because of how it's narrated. We know Mary Gerard died, so, and she was poisoned, so we're all thinking about who did it with regard to Mary Gerard. But what if actually they meant to kill Eleanor? The story would be very different then, right? So we can all think about what that's about, what the theories could be, and we can continue the story. Hi, Empty. Empty says meow. Hi. How are you? I love cats. Same here, Empty. Thank you so much for joining. How are you doing? So, yeah. So it was fun because I kind of had a theory that perhaps if Eleanor is innocent, perhaps whoever's trying to kill by poisoning was actually trying to kill Eleanor. You know what I mean? I kind of had my suspicions that they were trying to kill Eleanor, not Mary, but Mary is unfortunate who died. But if they were trying to kill Eleanor, then, well, the person who stands to gain from her death would be Roddy, because she left everything, remember, to Roddy. She even made a will saying that she wanted to leave everything to Roddy. So naturally, if somebody's trying to kill Eleanor, we should probably think about who gains from Eleanor's death, and it would be Roddy. So I don't know if Roddy is the one who accidentally poisoned Mary while trying to kill Eleanor. It might be a little far-fetched because so far the story has shown that Roddy is not really the type who takes a ton of action towards things, so maybe he's not really a murderer type. I don't know. We'll see. And also, him and Eleanor seemed to have like a good enough relationship where he might not want to kill her, but who knows? We don't know yet. We'll find out. So we just have part 3 left. We'll cover it tomorrow. We'll read part 3 starting tomorrow. And we will continue on and figure out what happens here with the story. And we don't have much left of this book, so we're nearly done. So thank you so much for joining and listening along with the story and hanging out and catching up with us and hanging out with the kitty cats. We just have a little bit left to read from this book, which we will do tomorrow. Heike said, thank you for reading, Sad Cypress. See you next time. Happy weekend to Baji and all the friends. Yes! See you tomorrow. We will be back tomorrow for our live stream. MT is asking, where are you from? I am in Boston right now. I have lived in multiple places and I'm from India originally. So, yeah. Currently we're in Boston. So, the Boston area. So, welcome to all of you at our live in the Boston area. And we will read again more tomorrow. We can finish this probably tomorrow. It's gonna be intriguing. I'm gonna save my voice and make sure that I think, oh, so I'm looking at part 3, kind of peeking at it a little bit before we read it tomorrow. So I think the next part is going to be the case, like the court case. Basically, this trial will be going on where Eleanor is the accused, and we will be following sort of the prosecution and the defense in the court for Eleanor. So it should be pretty dramatic, actually, and it'll be fun to read about this next. So part 3 is the court trial. That's what it is. That's what it is. I'm happy that it was such a sunny day today. It worked out. October 12th today. Wow. I can't believe how late in October it already is. Thank you so much for your support for this channel. Really appreciate you all being here. I think we've been getting sort of like less views on our short videos. If anyone feels like it, feel free to show us some love on our shorts. It can be a little discouraging sometimes, but that's okay. We just like making the videos and sharing our feline joys, as well as love for books. So, but the channel has been a little bit not getting as much views and likes and things like that. So if you feel up to it, please do go and watch our stuff and leave your comments. Thank you. YouTube can be a little bit hard sometimes, but overall, we're happy. We're happy to be here with you all. Look at Suji's little arm. She's holding the sofa. Such a cutie. Such a cutie. Cute bachas. They're really cute bachas. I also love that everybody has been so patient with the reading. Thank you for listening along with the reading of the book. Oh, Baji is cleaning Suji. Look at that. Baji has been such a good boy today. He was a little scared of the neighbor noises in the backyard. There was some garden work that was happening. I think the neighbor's parents were visiting. But so Baji had some anthropological noises. Strange people, in other words. But then he settled down and we kept reading and it was all good. Hi, baby. It all worked out. Look at how cute they are. Look at how cute. Little your baby too. Little babies. Little babies. Aw.